TIFU by not noticing my cat snuck into the dryer, by user Lieutenant Spoon. Just editing to add a trigger warning, as some commenters have shared similar experiences in which did not end well. Also decided to move the TLDR up here. Lieutenant Spoon is okay. Everything is okay. Kitty took a tumble for a couple of minutes, went to the vet, and all is well. He is happy, eating, drinking, and getting all the snuggles and belly rubs. This is not the first time this has happened in my life. So I'm usually very careful, as I was traumatized years ago by a similar incident that happened with my mom and her cat. I was doing the laundry, typical Saturday morning cleaning for me. I don't ever let the cats into the laundry room because I've had this experience before. I also have OCD, so I, every single time, will check that the cats are on the other side of the door before I start the dryer. Well, today I didn't do that. The one time I don't check. Lieutenant Spoon is a long-haired black cat and he's so quiet, he's like a shadow. He can sneak through anything if you're not paying attention. He must have snuck into the laundry room before I had a chance to shut the door. I threw the clothes into the dryer, left the door open just long enough to put a dryer sheet in, closed the door and started the dryer. I went back downstairs and was finishing cooking breakfast. It couldn't have been more than 2 minutes later that I heard the most awful screech I have ever heard in my entire life. I instantly knew what it was. When I tell you I flew up those stairs, I am not exaggerating. I opened the dryer and luckily it was not warm, but my sweet Mr. Spoon was all puffy and hissed at me, scratched my arms and even bit me. I feel like such a POS. I took him to the vet and they said he is okay. He is eating and drinking. TIFU by admitting to my wife that another woman almost made me climax, by user throw Rajo a note exotic. Fuck, this is embarrassing. The other woman in question here is the poor lady that was waxing me. Nothing about it was remotely sexually arousing, sometimes it just has a mind of its own. When I started getting hard she didn't even blink, just smiled casually, noticing how horrified I look, and said that it happens, then carried on with her work. By the time she was finished everything was way too sensitive, I had to barely hold myself back from coming multiple times during, so when she was done I immediately went into the bathroom and got off. Then I made the rookie mistake of sharing this with my wife, thinking it's a dumb story we can both laugh about. I'll admit I was feeling a bit guilty too, even though it was something out of my control, which makes it ridiculous. Now she refuses to talk me and says that it's technically cheating for another woman to get me hard than for me to get off on it. TLDR, I admitted to my wife that I got aroused by waxing and jerked off afterwards, and now she's pissed at me. TIFU by sleeping next to my boyfriend, by user Fox Stress. TIFU by sleeping next to my boyfriend. Not a native English speaker, also on phone. Formatting and wording issues may be present. This happened a few months ago. I had just traveled to see my boyfriend for the first time in another country. The travel was rough, but he met me halfway, so it became easier to handle when closer to the finish line. We had never physically met before and had discussed that we would take it slow, see how we feel when together, maybe sleep in separate beds if that makes us more comfortable. Well, all those plans flew out the window in the first 10 minutes. We got along insanely great and everything just clicked into place as if it had always been like that. We reached his apartment in the late evening, both very tired after laughing and messing around all day, yet somehow our clothes ended up on the floor and things quickly lead to another. Exhausted from traveling and now with a ton more of happy chemicals in our brains, we fell asleep quickly and comfortably, safely tucked in a cuddle. We're both light sleepers, me more than him. I woke up to his phone ringing, feeling dazed and confused as one does after just waking up unexpectedly. I got a quick glance at my surroundings, trying to locate the root of the annoyance that woke me from my slumber. Still trying to figure out what year it is and where I am, I see my boyfriend open his eyes, waking up to the commotion. Oswell. While most would romantically maybe blush a little and say good mornings awkwardly, well, not us. All hell broke loose. His eyelids ripped themselves wide open and he began screaming. So loudly. Picture night terror, but only after you've already woken up. The loudest screams of fear filled the whole apartment. He would only stop to gasp more air, just to continue the blood-chilling noise again. You see, in his sleepy haze his brain had told him I'm an intruder who's there to attack him, and his not-so-effective or controlled smacking and pushing were his panicked attempts at defending himself. And what did I do to defuse this situation? I screamed back. I kept screaming back and felt like I was in danger now. Oswell. There we are, two idiots just screaming at the same time at each other for no reason whatsoever. He got me pretty good on my jaw, which was enough to rattle me fully awake. Hey! 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 "Hey, it's me, it's me." I began to chant. He slowly calmed down, and came back to our reality as well. He wouldn't stop apologizing at first, said sorry over and over, looking clearly ashamed of himself. I just found out he didn't even realize he was flailing his arms and legs the way he did. The evening we were already laughing about it, and joking about how the next morning will turn out to be like. Note, there was a lot less screaming. We woke up silently every morning after, with my jaw remaining free from pain. TLDR, boyfriend thought I was an intruder when he woke up, screamed and flailed to defend himself, and my solution was to scream back. TIFU by joking about being adopted, by user Wild Chiver. Back in 2018 my wife and I bought and took our ancestry DNA tests. Nothing odd came to light other than my Irish heritage wasn't as big as I had expected. My father, who passed away in 2017, claimed his parents came over from Ireland and that he was 100%. Flash forward to 2 nights ago, my wife and I were sitting at dinner going through marriage, naturalizations and other documents of my grandparents when I made an off-the-cuff joke, "I don't look like my dad, maybe I'm adopted." 2 days later my family is together for my niece's high school play when I was trying to get my mom and her mom to take a DNA test and my wife mentioned my joke about being adopted. Later my mom asked to see me. Hysterical, she confessed that my father was not my biological father and he was always afraid to tell me for fear that I would love him less. Even in his deathbed he made her promise not to tell me. Apparently the sperm donor was a guy my mom dated for a few months, she got pregnant and he offered her money for an abortion, then ran. My father came into the picture when I was 5 months old. TLDR joked about being adopted, discovered my dad's not my dad. Edit, I'm 35 and apparently the last person in my family/close family friends to know. Everyone hid this for 35 years. Nothing changes the way I feel towards my parents, the only thing I wish is that I had the opportunity to let my dad know that I loved him so much and blood doesn't make you family. I hate that he had to die with the fear that I would love him less. TIFU by not apologizing to our farmer neighbors and, likely, ruining my parents' retirement home, by user Vunto4. I tried to get advice on this and stick to my principles by not offering an apology when not in the wrong, but I think it's become clear that I footy and I could have prevented this with a better attitude. I 18F live with my parents, and we moved last year away from a big city to a cheaper, more rural community in the Midwest, since my dad's retired now and money goes further here, to finish up my last year of high school. We have by far the smallest lot out here, but most of our neighbors are farmers with quite a bit of land. I don't feel like I fit in well with the neighbors and have had some arguments with some of them and their kids. They're up early making noise every morning with farm machinery, yelled at me for listening to rap music loud in the car late at night. It was only 9 or so, with a friend from high school, and most recently they let one of their cows get into our yard when it was grazing while I was out in the backyard, and I gave them a dirty look and stood there while they tried to get it back. Recently I guess he talked to my dad and gave him some sort of redneck we don't take kindly speech about my behavior and that wasn't how things operated round these parts, and for me to apologize. So my dad asked me to, but I refused, because I think they're in the wrong towards me. I saw him out back one day and he asked me if I had anything to say about my attitude, and I said I haven't done anything wrong to you, I just think you should respect other people's property boundaries. So he said all right, have it your way and walked off. Well, Dad and I left town for spring break, but when we came back we noticed construction was heavily underway, almost complete, on a large shed structure right up against the property line, maybe 20 feet from our house. My mom asked a woman who lives a bit further down if they knew what it was about, and they said, "Oh, yeah, guess the word is that they've had some trouble with your daughter and they've made the decision to put in a pig barn." My parents freaked out, asked around and heard this was a known tactic to drive out unwanted neighbors and very effective. Dad called the city and asked about odor nuisance laws and what can be done, but was told the area is zoned agricultural and that it was more of an honor system thing that farmers wouldn't do that without more land, but technically he was allowed to have up to 200 pigs on the property. He asked the neighbor if he would reconsider but he said that the order of pigs is already scheduled and his mind was made up. Now my dad is furious with me, and frantic about what to do. At first I told him to just ignore it and let them do what they're gonna do, but from the people I've talked to online they're saying that's probably not going to be a possibility for us. I thought he was overreacting at first but now I'm facing the prospect that I really did crash the value of their property for good and that we're all about to be very miserable. They finished construction on the barn so I guess the moment of truth is coming. TLDR provoked a farmer neighbor in this agriculturally zoned area, about to get 200 new oinking neighbors.